Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Roundup, the #1 romance book recs talk show. I am Liz Donatelli.
And I'm Libby K., author of the sweet romance series Buckeye Falls.
Libby and I are sharing our recent romance recs and TBRs.
I love romance.
Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance Channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on PodBean and all podcast apps. Viewers and listeners can email us at readerseeksromance@yahoo.com. And follow us on Instagram at LibbyKAuthor and at ReaderSeeksRomance.
Hey, Liz.
Hi, Libby. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
I have 3 book recs. Usually you have more book recs than me.
That's
Actually,
true.
you usually talk more in general about like book recs, TBRs, and I sometimes just have 2 or I have more TBRs. I have 3 book recs, so this is a banner Liz episode.
And it'll balance out the universe because I have 2 that I haven't read that I'm excited to read. I have others to talk about, of course, but
Yeah.
I feel like you came prepared today and I am slacking.
And this is why we work well together. I guess we should just dig right in. So, Libby, let the roundup begin.
Giddy up, Liz. Here we go. Okay, so I think between the book recs I'm going to talk about in a minute and the TBRs I'm going to talk about now, apparently I am in my grumpy sunshine era, regardless of the other tropes that I'm going to discuss. I don't know what's going on with that, but apparently I'm just going to lean into it. So the first one that I want to talk about is on my TBR, and it is a paranormal, so it's perfect for this time of year. It is Bewitched by Sophie H. Morgan. This just came out the end of August of this year from Harlequin. And this is book 2 in the Toil and Trouble series. The tropes for this one, obviously, judging from the title, it is a paranormal romance. It was also listed as a Grumpy Sunshine and an Enemies to Lovers. So giddy up, I'm ready for that. So the back of the book description starts with "All's fair in love and warlocks." So again, it's the time of year I'm in the mood for this.
That is great. That really just rolls off the tongue.
Isn't it? It's great. I love it.
Now, the only thing that would ruin this moment is if you tell me that it's like a 6-page book description on the back.
It's not 6 pages, but it's 5 paragraphs.
Okay, so
I tried to condense it, but I feel like it's kind of written in that like not first person necessarily, but it's more narrative, and I felt like I didn't have the energy to rewrite someone's book description. So I'm just going to ask you to get comfy while I read a novel.
Okay, I'm along for the ride.
6 weeks ago, Leah Turner snuck into a witch high society masked ball and promised to abide by 2 rules. Rule number 1, don't draw attention to yourself. And rule number 2, don't talk to anyone. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that she does not follow either of these rules.
Okay, let me just tell you, when you began it 6 weeks ago, I just can't. 6 weeks ago. I mean, come on. Okay.
It's oddly specific. As a human, Leah took a huge risk by even attending this event, let alone talking to a handsome warlock who had her wanting to rip off her mask. But this Cinderella had to leave the ball before anyone discovered her secret. Gabriel Goodnight, and yes, that's his real name, and I can't decide if I love it or really love it, is everything a higher family.
This is hilarious. You know, I think we should just stop doing book recs and TBRs
and just read book descriptions.
Seriously, go on Amazon in real time during the recording. Just pull up random books and read the description.
I think that'd be fun.
I think that'd be a great episode when we haven't read anything worth mentioning, or we're just tired. I think we should or maybe we should do Goodreads for people who don't want to do Amazon, want us to support Amazon in that way.
Goodreads, I would do. Goodreads. I'm down for that.
Yeah, although I think Amazon owns Goodreads.
We have no choice.
Okay, so continue on with Mr. Goodnight.
Yes, Mr. Goodnight. So Gabriel Goodnight is everything a higher, with a capital H, family warlock should be. Powerful, responsible to a fault, some might say. Still, before he can inherit his parents' business, he'll have to prove his merit to the board one final time by living amongst humans without his powers for 3 months. So these are a lot of different timetables. I'm assuming that will make sense when I read the book.
Okay. I'll be honest. By the end of this, we won't need to read the book.
Yeah. Well, there's only one paragraph left.
What?
I know. So when Gabriel walks into Leah's bar, she immediately recognizes him because she was just at the ball. But it's obvious he has no idea who she is. And he definitely doesn't know that she knows about his magic. This condescending, uptight man is hardly the Prince Charming she thought she knew, but that doesn't mean that they can't have a little fun. So that is the description of the book. The reviews I've seen are very fun. It sounds like it's a cute romp was a description I kept seeing several times. It's that time of year. I usually am, of all of the paranormal things we've talked about, witches are not usually a go-to for me. But again, with how this was the descriptions, the cover was super cute. I'm also in the mood for a good Cinderella retelling. It just sounds cute, damn it. And I'm in the mood for something cute and festive. That was Bewitched by Sophie H. Morgan, out now from Harlequin.
And speaking of witchy romances, I recently posted a witchy romance author panel discussion on Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Reader Seeks Romance interview show. I speak with paranormal romance authors Celestine Martin, Lindsay Lovis, Carly Bloom is also in the discussion, and Adriana Shu, who was also on Reader Seeks Romance's First Date because she is a debut author. If you're a paranormal romance reader who's interested in witchy romance, then definitely check it out.
So, Liz, we've talked about witches and warlocks. What do you got for us next?
Gay men.
Do they have magical powers?
I have for you The Romance of the Fall. I recently read and loved A.J. Truman's Fall for You. It's a male-male romance with a little bit of hurt comfort mixed in, because I know you like that.
Which always sounds funny, but it's true.
You like your men broken, preferably without a home.
Yes.
Looking for a place to live.
My therapist is listening, but we'll talk about it next week.
Fall for You was published by the author in September 2020. Here's a quote from the book description that I love. Fall for You is a story for everyone who believes in the magic of love, the beauty of autumn, and the power of scented candles.
Oh, I love that. That is so A.J. Truman.
Yes, it is.
Damn it, I love his writing.
Fall for You, it's the perfect fall romance. It's an autumnal explosion of awesome, and you'll never think of a corn maze in the same way ever again. Those are all my words. Here's the gist. Spencer loves Chicago in the summer. He's all about playing beach volleyball and rooftop parties. He's not a fan of cooler temperatures, the fall season, and definitely not a fan of being in a relationship. Enter Patrick, Spencer's new neighbor. Patrick can't wait for the summer to end and for pumpkin spice season to start. He's newly single and nursing a broken heart. And I just realized that rhymes.
Yeah, it does. And you, I don't mean, this is going to sound condescending. And you wrote that all by yourself.
You're right. It does sound condescending. It does.
You can either cut it or leave it. I'm fine.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I need to be humbled. So Spencer and Patrick do not get off to a friendly start. So when Spencer breaks his leg and Patrick helps him out, things are a little awkward at first. Eventually, the more time they spend together, the more they like each other. And here's a quote. As the two of them experience all the glory fall has to offer, they soon find themselves lost in a corn maze of emotions. But will their newfound closeness fall apart once Spencer's cast comes off? I love that there's that nod to the corn maze.
Yes.
Because
that's fabulous.
It is a very, A.J. Truman. He's got very steamy scenes. And this does not disappoint. There is a very steamy corn maze situation. Have you ever been in a corn maze?
It's been a minute, and I can assure you it was not steamy.
Yeah. Well, just in the way that like sweat pouring off of me, trying to find my way out.
Oh, you must have gone to a cooler one than me. I was in it for like 10 minutes and I was bored, and it was
Really?
then my asthma got kicked up. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
Oh, really? See, I went to one in the Columbus area, and I was like, oh, this is a little scary. Yeah, no, like I just think of being petrified, but if you think of it like being kind of scared and confused and don't know where to go, and then, I don't know, sometimes I feel like that could lead to great sexual tension. And it's like, oh,
Well,
I don't know
especially
where to
if
go.
A.J. Truman's writing it.
Because yes, absolutely. It's like, I don't know where to go. I'm so confused. Let's have sex in the cornfield. Um, where was I? I keep losing my place.
Oh, it doesn't matter. This is gold.
Yeah. Corn and sex. Also corn is phallic and it's, anyway.
That's very true.
Okay. So I personally am 100 million percent a fan of fall. I'm not a summer person, even though
Me
my
neither.
birthday's in August. So I totally related to Patrick and his seasonal preparations, which put me in the fall spirit. The friendship and eventual romance between Patrick and Spencer is incredibly special, filled my heart with joy, and is very well paced, given that this is a 142-page novella. So
Oh,
yeah. And to be honest, I was like, oh geez, like this is going to be interesting because they're not really like jibing at first. There's a little bit of like rudeness and hostility. So I was like, I don't know, can AJ do this? Can he turn this around? This book, I think we've talked about this, about scratch and sniff. Didn't we talk about scratch and sniff
yes, we
book
have. We've
covers?
talked about this a couple times.
And I think every time it's been in relation to AJ's book covers. I think the print book should have scratch and sniff like pumpkin spice or apple
Ooh,
cider
that'd be
because
nice.
you could almost smell it. Like all the descriptions of all the different scents. And, they have, I think, mulled cider at some point, So anyway, it was a fantastic, romance, really great steam and a lot of fall vibes. So I highly recommend Fall for You by AJ Truman. What have you next, Libby?
This may not come as a surprise because this is one you've talked about on a previous episode. This one we discussed in the book cover episode we did about 2 months ago now. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is If I Stopped Haunting You by Colby Wilkins. It just came out October 15th from St. Martin's Griffin. And it is a standalone. It is, as the title would imply, a paranormal romance. This is another grumpy sunshine / enemies to lovers ///.
I'm totally going to put Freddy Krueger going slash,
Yes,
slash, slash.
Before I read the premise, the thing I got excited about this is it sounded like since there is a haunted house involved, that there could be the potential for the landlord tenant or something. So I thought, damn it, this is another reason to pick this up, not just because of the super cool cover. And the other reason I picked it up is because it involves writers. And I'm a sucker for books about writers or books about books. Basically, anything about books in book form is like catnip to me. And actually, I just realized this description is going to start just like the other one, where we're giving time.
All right, this has got to stop. This has got to stop.
You know, it's funny, and now I'm going to go on another tangent. I've noticed that a lot more book descriptions are giving more backstory before they get to the point of the book, as I'm about to describe on this one. And again, interesting, but I feel like that's a newish trend. I don't feel like even a year ago, romance book descriptions started with, remember 5 months ago and so went out for a ham sandwich. It's like, no one cares. But now it's like, we need to know the backstory. So,
right. And,
yeah.
You had mentioned, I think it was you who had made the point that it's a way for us to get quickly invested in the book.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm wondering if, to expand on that, because so much is revealed through book talk and Bookstagram and everywhere else, you're already going into it having heard stuff. So they want to give you even something unique or something new information on the back of the book by also revealing backstory. But that's just it. I'm starting to feel like I'm hearing from all different sources enough about the book to feel like, well, I don't think I really need to read it because I've got so many other things on my TBR. I could skip that because I have heard enough about it. So I feel like that could backfire.
I think you're right. And I think there's almost like not fatigue. Fatigue is too strong of a word, but there's almost a certain level of fatigue with how some books are marketed.
Yeah, I would say fatigue is a good word to describe it. What would you say?
Okay.
Like book marketing fatigue, like book
Yeah, and
description
it could
fatigue?
just be how some algorithms work where if you make the mistake of clicking
Yeah,
on one ad
yeah,
or post, you're just gonna,
yeah.
keep getting stuff. But it does feel like it's just, and again, I would love to have that type of viral marketing. But it just seems like it's very, I don't want to say in your face because there's, it's the point of having marketing, but it just feels different again in
Yeah.
the last little while. But
Although that could also be a marketing tactic. And let's face it, sometimes I've seen something so many times. I'm like, okay, well, I think you wore me down. I think I'm going to buy
no,
it, you know?
I'm like,
So,
okay, here's my $15. Thank you.
right. So it's absolutely fascinating book marketing. How far in the past are we beginning in this book
It
description?
just says it's been months. So I don't know how many months,
Okay. All right. I think I could deal with it.
but not 6 weeks like the last one.
I mean, 6 weeks. I would love to write. We need to write parodies of book descriptions. Now
Ooh,
I
that'd
mean,
be
although
fun.
you've written book descriptions obviously for your own books, right? You write the
Yeah.
book descriptions, right? So
Yeah.
I think we should write a parody of some of these long ones. Like I'm going to do like 16 years, 5 days and 2 hours ago. I want to come up with a totally fake book and see if it gains traction.
You know what would happen is it wouldn't, then you'd have to write it.
Hey, if someone backs up the money truck and says, "Hey,
That's
Liz, this is a viral sensation. Now we want you to write it," I'd be like, okay.
back up the. Can you have the money truck also swing by my address, please?
Yeah, no, just me.
Yeah.
So I don't share. The money truck
I'll
doesn't
just
have
be
enough
hiding in the
gas to
bushes.
get to your side of town.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
where were we? 6 months ago, 5 months ago, several months
Some
ago.
time of months ago. Okay,
Okay,
so
good.
it's been months since horror author Penelope Skinner threw a book at Neil Storm. Side note, I love their names, already obsessed. But he was so infuriating with his sparkling green eyes, his best-selling horror novels that claimed to break native stereotypes. And now she's a publishing pariah, and she hasn't been able to write a word since. So when her friend invites her on a too good to be true writer's retreat, supposedly in a supposed haunted Scottish castle, she seizes the opportunity. Of course, some things really are too good to be true. Neil wants nothing less than to be trapped in a castle that with the frustratingly adorable woman who threw a book at him. She drew blood. Worse still, she's unleashed a serious case of self-doubt. Neil is terrified to write another best-selling, quote, book without a soul, as Penn had called it. All Neil wants is to find inspiration while completely avoiding her. But as the retreat begins, Penn and Neil are stunned to find themselves trapped in a real life ghost story. Even more horrifying, they're stuck together in a truly shocking and extremely hot almost kiss that has left them rethinking their feelings, and maybe they shouldn't be enemies after all. But if they can't stop the ghosts that are pursuing them, they may never have the chance to find out. And then the last part of the description says it's filled with spooky chills and even more sexy thrills. I like the fact that it's in Scotland, even though they're obviously not Scottish. And I just like the idea of anything in a castle. And again, it sounds like it's cute hauntings. Not that I don't like horror sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just read something that was kind of creepy, obviously not a romance. And so I feel like this will be a nice like segue back into romances for the season. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And not just because the cover is really cool, but I am excited to read If I Stopped Haunting You by Colby Wilkins, which
Yeah.
is out now from St. Martin's Griffin.
Excellent. I've been noticing ghosts appearing more in book descriptions. I feel like ghosts are being worked into a lot of romances,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a haunting situation that people have run into. I think Rosie Dannon has a book that
Yes.
did come out or was around like paranormal ghost investigators and stuff like that. I just feel like it's been popping up more. And also people falling in love with ghosts.
Yes.
And I usually don't read them because I just feel like any ending is going to be ridiculous, which is
Mm-hmm.
probably not fair. But I'm thinking, well, one of two things. What? The other person has to die, so then they're a ghost and there's got two ghosts in love, or sometimes it's like magically the dead person then is able to become alive again.
Yeah.
So I was
That's
just
usually what I've seen happen, is because it'd be weird if they just kill the other person.
Right. See, now that's how I would solve it. But, I love anything with haunted houses as long as these people are human and not,
Yeah, and
ghosts. Yeah.
that to me is why I think this appeals, not just the writing side.
Yeah.
They're people. Like, something weird is happening, but I'm getting Scooby-Doo vibes. Like, it's gonna probably be the first person they see, and it's gonna, they're gonna rip the mask off and be like, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you pesky writers.
Yes, it does have Scooby-Doo vibes, particularly the book cover. It's like the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney, and it's also kind of Scooby-Doo-ish. Yeah. So
I'm on board. Liz, from a haunted Scottish castle, where are you taking us next?
I'm taking you to the Boundlands.
Ooh, what is this?
The Boundlands is a fantasy land. First, I have to say that the title I'm about to speak about was mentioned at one of our in-person book clubs by one of our book clubbers. And this was on this book clubber's TBR, and shared it with the group. And I was like, this sounds like something I'd be interested in. Because as you and viewers and listeners probably know, I do enjoy alien and monster romances. I usually don't read romantasy, but this is romantasy because this is not the world as we know it. As a matter of fact, the human world is called the Void. So, yeah. So, and it doesn't say Earth. It's just like the human world is the Void, and the Borderlands is where all the fun monsters live. Apparently.
Oh, that sounds neat.
So the name of this novella is Live, Laugh, Lurk. And it is a novella that kind of introduces you to a lot of the characters that appear in some of the other books. Live, Laugh, Lurk by Elsie Winters is part of the Boundlands series, and it released in August 2024 by the author. It is a romantasy featuring a small town romance between an elvish woman, Lilith, and a Mothman named Alistair. And the Mothman people are part of the forest dwelling race. Okay. I thought that I should mention that. But that brings up a good question. It's a Mothman, but they never mention if there's a moth woman, which there must be.
Yeah, that only seems fair.
Although I don't know if how moths come into existence. Are they hatched from eggs?
I mean, they're insects, so yes.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought of it now. So it's a Mothman, but I'm guessing there's a moth people. I guess I'm getting hung up on details that are not needed. Okay. So here's the gist. Lilith, the elf woman, temporarily moves from the big city to an old college town to launch her uncle's new plant shop. Lilith, who possesses plant magic, is a caring, open-minded elf who is torn between the world she knows and the one she would like to know better. Lilith develops a friendship and eventually falls for her neighbor, who runs an apple orchard and experiments with creating different varieties of apple. That's Alistair, the Mothman. So Alistair, I love the name Alistair, and to know it's for a Mothman, the name of a Mothman is just, it's so hilarious.
Icing on the cake.
Yes, well said. Alistair is a cinnamon roll. It's funny, I wrote down Alistair is a cinnamon roll covered in sparkly moth dust, but that sounds weird. He's a cinnamon roll character who, one of his physical traits is that he has this sparkly moth dust that, like, whenever he hugs Lilith, like, it gets all over her. But I'm sure it's
and as an asthmatic, I'm like, would I need my inhaler and an extra Zyrtec? Like, what's going on here?
I feel like it's not an allergen. It's just.
Is it like the Twilight twinkles, or is it like actually coming off of him?
No, it's actually coming off of him. Yeah, I know I'm not really, it doesn't sound enticing as I say it like that, but it's kind of sweet that every time she's with him, she's covered in the sparkles. All right, anyway, I'll move on. So Alistair also hand knits chunky blankets, which I think is really sweet. And because he's a Mothman, he's enamored by lights and lamps.
Okay. I not to sound like the kids these days, but I love that for you, Liz. I love everything about this, but there's just like I feel like there's so much going on in terms of where they live and what they do, and then he's making chunky blankets. Like, it's too cute.
Okay, yes, and wait, but there's more.
Wait, there's more.
There's more. Okay, I want to give the author props, Elsie Winters, for writing a very, very, very brief book description. And right, and doesn't even give away the names of the characters, doesn't give away
Shut up.
but just the nugget, the essence of what you need to know. So that also helped me to be like, hey, I gotta buy this and see what's up. So
you
anyway.
were intrigued, but it wasn't spoiled.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So Elsie Winters crafts an imaginative, non-human world, the Borderlands. And as I mentioned, the human world is called the Void, which I could get behind.
Yeah. Depending on the day, it certainly feels like one.
Yes. Now, there is a human in it because there is a human living in the Borderlands. And I think that person has their own book because they fall in love with a quote unquote monster. There are fuzzberry pastries. There are spectral messengers. There are dragon-drawn carriages. It's super fun. And there are some cozy autumnal elements, such as tea drinking and moon blush apples, which actually is featured in the really cute illustrated cover. So on the book cover of Live, Laugh, Lurk, it's kind of cute, but a little bit more realistic because it does look like a Mothman and a cute little elf woman with elf ears, like pointed ears. And he's holding an apple because the moon blush apple plays into the whole story. But anyway,
okay.
So there's apples, they drink tea. I mean, it's very cozy.
And where is it on the steam level here?
Very good question. So it is, I would say, because here's the thing, once they have intercourse, that sounds so clinical.
You say she's covered in dust, I'm out of here.
Okay, so once the couple consummate their love, I would say it's low steam.
Oh, okay.
I would say it's sexy to low steam. I'll tell you one thing, it was a lot sexier than I thought. So I would say sexy to low steam.
Okay.
Because it's but yet, you know, there's no real dirty talk, but there are some, you know, some pretty sexy things going on. And apparently all of Alistair's male parts are on the inside. So they have to come out.
I was just going to say, I'm assuming they make an appearance.
They do make an appearance. You know what? I know it might sound hard to buy into, but I really just bought into it. I thought they had a fantastic friendship because they start out as friends.
Oh, that's
and then
nice.
Just there's a really natural progression to the love story, very well paced. And this was a short read, a novella. You also meet a lot of the other monsters whose love stories are featured in other books in the series. So I'm very interested in reading the rest of the love stories. Yeah, it was just incredibly sweet and thoroughly satisfying. So I highly recommend Live, Laugh, Lurk, a Borderlands novella by Elsie Winters.
I am intrigued. You have definitely intrigued me. And there's just so much going on. I feel like I need to read it and see what it's like for myself.
Yeah. It's quite lovely. And
okay.
And yeah, and there's a scene where he's wearing an I Love Lamp shirt. And I used to have
like from Anchorman.
Brick, are you just looking at things in the office and saying that you love them?
I love lamp.
Do you really love the lamp, or are you just saying it because you saw it?
I love lamp. I love lamp.
This is why I love you.
I love Anchorman. I've watched that movie like on a loop for years.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you said that. That is one of the few movies that Tom, my husband, and I saw and laughed hysterically at in the movie theater. I mean, like crying. And he bought me an I Love Lamp shirt.
I will go so far as to say, I feel like that was the last true comedy to come out that I've enjoyed. Because I feel like around that time, a bunch of comedies came out, and then like the second half would get sad, or there would be something serious happen. It's like, I just want to laugh the whole time. It was absurd. It was perfect. Now that we're talking about it, I want to watch it again.
I do too. I know.
We have a DVD player.
Yes, we have it on DVD.
I love Lamp.
Libby, I understand that you have 2 brief book recs of books you said you were going to read, and you actually read them.
Yes, correct, Liz. I'm reporting back.
Okay. And you've said that many a time, say, I'll report back.
And I know I actually am.
You're reporting back. Maybe we need to make this a new segment, Libby Reports Back.
Yeah. But anyway, now I'm reporting back. So the first one I read, I believe it came out last year. It is Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. I talked about her first book, whose name I just forgot, How to Fake It in Hollywood. So I read that one when that came out, and that was her debut. This one is her second. And I have to say, I love her book so much. I was devastated when I went on to Goodreads and Amazon and I couldn't see any mention of anything coming out for her. So Ava Wilder, if you're listening, please God, write another book. She writes, again, they've both been celebrity romances, but she writes them so well that when I finished this one and saw that she lives in Oklahoma, I was like, what? Because the way she writes, I feel like she lives in LA. And that's why I thought of you, Liz, because both of her books are obviously set in LA. They're very LA focused, a lot of mentions of LA. And I'm like, why is Liz not reading these books? So I'm not even going to bother reading the description. I'm just going to give you a tiny little blurb. But this is 2 coworkers. Think of it that they used to work, and I'm going to be dating myself, on like a CWWB style teen show or young adult show.
Yeah.
And basically, the male character has stayed on that show after they broke up. The girl goes off, tries to make it big in Hollywood. Spoiler alert, her movie's a flop. So she comes back with her tail between her legs to finish up this series. So it's a second chance romance with a lot of angst. I love the side characters. The thing that was nice about the side characters, they were barely in it, but every scene mattered. And I liked the banter. I liked the tension. And I'm not even going to call it a third act breakup. I'm just going to say I like the third act conflict that happened in this book and how she handled it, because that is something, and I won't give away the ending of her first one either, but Ava Wilder has written romances with endings. Obviously it's a romance, you know it's going to have a happy ending, but getting there is never what I expect. And I really enjoy that about her writing. And I found I was actually, when I was getting closer and closer to the end, I'm like, she's going to do something that I'm not expecting. And then she did it and I was all excited. So if you are looking for a well-paced, well-written celebrity romance, I highly recommend Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. I know I said I was going to read it when it came out earlier this year. I finally did, and it was great.
So Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. And what's the other one?
The other one is a different series, but also equally popular author. I finally read, and I'm very behind because I think this came out like 4 years ago. Book 2 in the Lovelight Farm series by B.K. Borison. This one is In the Weeds. This was Beckett, the farmer, and Evelyn, the social media influencer. And I really enjoyed the first one in the series. I already have the 3rd and 4th on hold. You know how it is at the library where you just keep saying, yeah, I want it. And then you keep delaying it. So I'm sorry to those waiting for the audiobooks. But I finally got around to listening to In the Weeds. She writes small town romances that are simultaneously adorably sweet. And then the steam she writes is like, ooh, perfect. It is, I mean, no notes perfection. This is a case where there's a lot of secondary characters, both with the friends that work at the farm and then all the townspeople, because Englewild, the town that B.K. Borison wrote, is like, I wish I wrote Buckeye Falls that well, because the way that she does her characters, every time I read it, I get pissed, which is why I probably only read one of hers a quarter, because I have to like pace myself. It's just the perfect small town charm. This one was set in the spring, which is funny because even though it's not spring here and everything they described was the spring, I'm like, in my mind, they're saying it's the fall, because that's how I am right now with my brain, I suppose. But it is, I mean, it was perfect. I can see why she was picked up by Berkeley. She has 2 new books coming out next year that are not associated with the series. I will read anything B.K. Borison writes. I don't have enough good things to say about it. both with this and Ava Wilder's, I was instantly, in this case, small town Maryland. With Ava Wilder, I was in LA, and I was just there. They both, their descriptions of the settings was just perfect. No notes for either of them. And I can see why BK Borison is so popular and is only gaining in popularity, because it was so cozy. I was getting angry. Like, I keep saying that, but it was too cozy, Liz. Like, her descriptions of, and I'm allergic to cats, so this is funny that I would find this endearing. Beckett has these cats, and so throughout the book, how he's treating the cats and he's adopting animals, and it's just so cute. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get a cavity reading this. And then in the next scene, they're having like a crazy sex scene in a greenhouse. And I'm like, where was this all my life? Like, I'm telling you, it was so good. I don't know how she does it, but yeah, never disappointed with BK Borison continuing after this book. Like, in the weeds. Mwah, chef's kiss perfection.
So there's some steam to
yes.
Her? Oh, yes. I thought they were all pretty closed doors.
Nope. It's not like anything crazy, but it is. I mean, I think there was 3 scenes. Yeah, because this is the second chance. They had a fling, and then they so the beginning of the book is the fling, and it starts hot, and I'm like, all right, giddy up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had said that I was going to read BK Borison's Love Light Farms. Is that the first one?
That's the first.
The Christmas tree farm. And I told you I was going to read, and I never did. But I think for this holiday season, I will read it.
Oh, you should, because that couple is in this one, because of course it's a series,
right? And, yeah.
Every little mention, I'm just like, yay! Like, oh, even her callbacks to the other books are perfect. Oh, she just pisses me off.
Wow, that's funny. Like, you love her work so much, you hate her.
Yeah, I almost get the Emily Henry vibes, where I'm reading it and I'm like, God, this is so good. I'm angry.
Yeah. All right. That's quite an endorsement.
Reporting to you, Liz.
Thank you for your service.
All right, Liz, that is all I have for today. What do you have to put a little bow on this perfect episode of Chaos?
It's a madhouse! A madhouse!
I'm taking you to a seaside town in England called Sunshine Bay.
Oh, cute.
I know. I read and adored Rivals to Lovers, Small Town Forced Proximity Romance, The Romance Library by UK author Olivia Spring. And I have mentioned Olivia on episode 20. It's our fake relationships episode. I had recommended Olivia's The Match Faker.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Which was a celebrity normie romance.
Celebrity normie, I love it.
Whatever people call it. There's a rocking chair sex scene and a Henry Cavill lookalike. And on the book cover, the character who's supposed to be the Henry Cavill lookalike, there's a very good likeness.
Excuse me while I quickly pull that up on my screen.
It does look like him.
It does look like him. And this is a cute cover.
Yeah, it is a cute cover. So here's what it's about. When Jess, who is barely scraping by working multiple jobs, is left £1 million and thousands of romance novels by someone she barely knew, she is tasked with opening a romance library in the seaside town of Sunshine Bay.
Oh.
To make this happen, Jess must secure a specific piece of property, but wealthy, arrogant developer Theo wants to purchase the same land on which to build luxury apartments.
It's always luxury apartments.
I feel like it's always some big bad land developer who wants to buy, make luxury condos, luxury apartments. Right. Which is interesting because it's like very Hallmark. It's Hallmarkian. Yes. It's like big Hallmarkian. Business.
I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
Hallmarkian. Big business versus, the little guy, Getting this land means a lot to Theo because his future at his family's company depends on it. The landowner agrees to sell to the person who presents the best plan for the property after they've lived in Sunshine Bay for 3 weeks. So Jess and Theo must take up residence in the only B&B in town. So I am going to call it, I don't know if this has been, troped before, but this is the only one B&B trope.
You started it now.
I'm calling it. Olivia Spring, it's yours. Only one B&B, because that's the whole forced proximity, is that they have to stay in the same B&B and in the same town. Only one town. Maybe that's, although that sounds post-apocalyptic. Only one
Actually,
town.
that's true. Yeah, only one B&B just sounds charming and
Yeah.
cute. And I feel like there's muffins involved.
Yeah. There are baked goods. There are baked goods in this
Oh,
book.
good.
Yeah. The more time that Theo and Jess are forced to spend together, the more their heads and hearts soften.
Huh?
Soften.
Soften?
Oh my God. That was my total Bronx accent. The more their heads and hearts soften. All right. I don't know
fine.
why. The more they fall for each other. They fall for each other. There you go. Author Olivia Spring has 1000% succeeded in crafting a love letter to the romance genre for ardent romance readers to enjoy. In the story, Jess used to be an avid romance reader, and this kind of brings her back to reading romance again because she has developed a reader's block, and there's a story behind that, and she hasn't read in a while. And I actually found that really relatable because there's nothing worse than not being able to do something that you love. I love reading, specifically romance, and I am constantly pushing through reader's block to read every single book that I read and talk about on the show. And I don't know if anybody else has that issue. It's really become quite a problem, but doing the show and belonging to 3 book clubs helps me to push through it. So I was able to, I really liked that this is something I've never read. Like we've all read books where, oh, they love reading romance books in it. But for that to be kind of an obstacle for the person, it's like, well, I used to, and now I have to kind of get back into it to open this library. Yeah. So I thought that was for me, a relatable challenge for the main character. Even though Jess and Leo get off to a very hostile start, what develops between them is a genuine respect, and it grows into understanding and open-mindedness. And they share some really lovely, tender moments. The banter is on point, mixed with humor and innuendo. And the author skillfully writes tropes into the story without it feeling forced or trite. So it's like, it's almost meta because you're talking about romance in relation to the romance library. And between Jess and Theo, there are things happening that are very tropey. So, and it was done really well where you're like, oh God, you aren't rolling your eyes like, oh boy. It was really done in some unique ways. And there are some very steamy times. The rocking chair sex scene will always live on in my mind because
I mean, between that and the Henry Cavill description, that's all I need to know.
Imagine Henry Cavill with you in a rocking, I was gonna say a rocking horse, in a rocking. Now that would be interesting. A rocking horse. That would have to be in a nanny. Nanny falls in love with the father of the,
Yeah, like an old governess like agency. Yeah.
Rocking horse sex. Hey, don't knock it till you've tried it. So Henry Cavill and me and a rocking chair having sex, like, yeah.
Just a normal Wednesday night.
Yes, in my mind. So I highly recommend that you read The Romance Library by Olivia Spring.
I will. That seriously sounds adorable. And again, rocking chairs and Henry Cavill. Things I didn't know I needed together.
And that's our roundup. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on PodBean and all podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, romance readers.
Happy reading, everyone.